According to an article by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, on April 19, 1995, a truck bomb exploded outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, killing 168 people, and 19 of which were children. This act was done by none other than Timothy McVeigh, a name that will forever be associated with one of the most horrific acts of domestic terrorism in United States history. Today I will walk you through the life of Timothy McVeigh. This includes his troubled upbringing, his time in the military, the events of the bombing, and the bombing as a whole, and what happened after. Having researched Timothy McVeigh's life, which includes those things, I aim to provide a clear understanding of how someone's inner struggles can really lead to extreme actions later on. This topic is crucial to understanding the potential dangers and how individual grievances lead to violent acts. First, I will discuss his early life, then I will discuss his time in the military, followed by the events of the bombing and the bombing as a whole, and finally I will wrap it up with the trial and what happened after. Timothy McVeigh's early life and upbringing played a significant role in shaping his later actions. According to a YouTube video titled Timothy McVeigh, America's Deadliest Terrorist, Simon Whistler stated, Timothy McVeigh was born on 1968 in Pendleton, New York. Timothy had a troubled childhood marked by his parents splitting up, which caused him to feel isolated. He had two sisters named Patricia and Jennifer, and his mom and dad were Bill and Nikki. As I already told you, they split up, and so that kind of showed that their family wasn't that together. He also had academic struggles and was socially discomforted, which further isolated him and led him to seek belonging. He developed an early interest in guns and violence that hinted at a future path of extreme destruction. While his early years were filled with struggle, it was really his time in the military that shaped his views on the government. McVeigh's military service, his exposure to extreme political views, and his view to government were key influences on the decision to commit mass violence. McVeigh enlisted in the Army in 1988 and served in the Gulf War, and this is where his experiences contributed to his growing distrust of the government. During his service in the Army, he began to embrace his radical beliefs such as his anti-government ideology, which became more pronounced after the Gulf War. Simon Whistler also stated that this is where he met two people that would later help him in his attack, Michael Fortier and Terry Nichols. The relationships that he formed with Michael and Terry further fed into his disbelief of the government and his distrust of them. After forming a strong anti-government stance, Michael McVeigh turned his attention to one of the most devastating acts of terrorism in United States history. The Oklahoma City bombing, planned and executed by McVeigh, was the peak of his beliefs and violent intentions. The FBI stated McVeigh rented a truck and planted a powerful bomb made out of a deadly concoction of agricultural fertilizer, diesel fuel, and other chemicals. He then parked it outside the Alfred P. Federal Building, targeting a government symbol. The bomb detonated and led to 168 deaths, and 19 of which were children, and left over 600 people injured, making it the deadliest attack in United States history at that time. But this bombing wasn't the end of his story. Its consequences would haunt him, the victims, and the country for many years. The aftermath of the bombing, McVeigh's trial, and his execution served as a reminder of the dangers posed to domestic terrorism. He was arrested within days of the bombing, and his trial attracted national attention. Despite his defense team's attempt to plead his case, McVeigh was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. He was executed by lethal injection in 2001, but the bombing left a huge lasting impact on the United States. Terry Nichols was convicted to prison for life, and Michael Fortier was sentenced to prison for 12 years and a $200,000 fine. In an article labeled Oklahoma City Bombing Fast Facts, CNN Library explained that there is now a memorial and a museum with 168 stones and glass chairs on the lawn of those, and each of those represents one of the victims of the attack. To sum it up, Timothy McVeigh's troubled childhood, military experience, and growing hatred for the government led him to carry out the Oklahoma City bombing, and this changed how the U.S. deals with terrorism today. It is important to understand how radical ideas can turn into real violence. We all have a role to play in making sure we do not let anger or frustration lead to hate and violence. Timothy McVeigh's life is a tragic reminder of how dangerous extremism can be. We must remember this lesson to help prevent future acts of violence, such as the Oklahoma City bombing. Thank you.